Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. A new dimension in hostage terror unfolding tonight off the coast of Alexandria, Egypt. A Palestine Liberation Organization commando team reportedly has seized an Italian cruise ship with about 400 people on board in the Mediterranean Sea. Whether there are any Americans on board the ship is not known. Italian Foreign Ministry officials say the ship, the Achille Lauro, began its cruise from Genoa, Italy, October 3rd and was supposed to make several ports of call. There are reports that the PLO hijackers are demanding the release of Palestinian comrades held in Israel. This Italian ship hijacking comes a week after Israeli air bombing of the PLO headquarters in Tunisia. No further details known at the moment. We will continue to monitor this breaking story. In Washington, more stalemate, more gridlock, and a ticking clock. Congress has yet to raise the national debt limit above $2 trillion, that's $2 trillion, to keep the U.S. government cash flowing. That is because raising the debt ceiling is still tied to President Reagan's move to get one of his favorite constitutional amendments passed, a move that has some in Congress ready to raise the roof. Phil Jones reports.
For federal workers around the nation, the good news tonight is that they won't be laid off tomorrow, even though the government could be out of borrowing power any moment. And from Treasury today came a letter hedging on just when the government will run out of cash. It could be tomorrow, and certainly by Wednesday. Once the money is gone, there could be hardship. For example, those with federal checks, whether Social Security recipients or defense contractors, would be unable to cash them.
And then we reduce across the board.
There were behind-the-scenes meetings today to work out a compromise on the balanced budget amendment that is blocking legislation needed to raise the debt ceiling. This balanced budget plan would supposedly bring the deficit down to zero by 1991. If deficit targets are not met, the president would be required to cut spending across the board. Only Social Security and some defense contract commitments would be excluded. President Reagan, who hasn't sent Congress a balanced budget since he took office, turned up the heat today, claiming he isn't responsible for 50 years of deficit spending by opponents of this amendment.
We've now inherited the bomb that we always said was there with a lighted fuse in all of that deficit spending, and we're going to do something about it on a permanent basis.
As for Wall Street, those in the financial community remain skeptical.
Financial markets are in a show-me mood. They don't want to see some general formula about how to bring the deficit down. They want to see specific programs cut or eliminated before anybody is going to look with a big hurrah to this measure.
It appears tonight that at least in the Senate a compromise is near and that a government financial crisis will probably be avoided. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The newest space shuttle, Atlantis, landed in the California desert today after its first flight, the second shuttle mission ever just for the military. Results of the mission were never given, but in spite of military secrecy, it's believed the shuttle successfully deployed 2 emergency communications satellites for the Pentagon that are jam-proof and can withstand nuclear radiation. Shuttle Atlantis reportedly came back with some damaged heat shield tiles, as have all the other 3 shuttles. And as Pentagon correspondent David Martin reports tonight, a big behind-the-scenes decision could mean there's going to be a lot more of President Reagan's Star Wars defense research in the space shuttle's future.
In a major policy shift, the Reagan administration now claims there are no treaty limits on the development of Star Wars weapons.
Until now, both the U.S. and the Soviet Union have maintained that the 1972 ABM Treaty prohibits the testing of anti-missile weapons in space.
But administration officials tell CBS News that a new study concludes that the ABM Treaty, which places strict limits on radars and rockets used to shoot down incoming nuclear missiles, does not limit the testing and development of more exotic weapons such as lasers and particle beams. That means, for instance, that this free electron laser, now used for research in a laboratory, could be placed aboard the space shuttle and tested in space. Despite the new policy, President Reagan today continued to talk publicly only about Star Wars research.
I'm determined to pursue our research program. It must go forward. It will go forward. It is not a bargaining chip, and we will go forward.
U.S. officials say the determination to proceed with Star Wars is one of the reasons behind the administration's refusal to go along with Soviet leader Gorbachev's call for a moratorium on underground nuclear tests. This is the site where seismographs monitor all nuclear tests around the world. Experts here argue that such tests are needed to develop weapons like the X-ray laser, which is powered by a nuclear explosion, and to study the effects nuclear blasts would have on satellites and other Star Wars systems.
We may actually put weapon systems in space if we go forward with that. Systems that are placed in space could be very vulnerable to nuclear weapons.
The U.S. expects the Soviet Union to raise questions about this new policy at a meeting scheduled for Wednesday in Geneva. The answers are likely to leave the two sides further apart than ever on arms control. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
NATO Secretary General Lord Carrington met in Washington today with President Reagan and Secretary of State Schultz. He said afterward that the new Soviet arms proposals are, and I quote, very welcome. Lord Carrington also said he doesn't see Soviet leader Gorbachev's offer in Paris last week to negotiate separately with France and Britain as any attempt to divide NATO and the West. But as Doug Tennell reports tonight from the Netherlands, one arms claim Gorbachev made is already giving the Soviet leader smiles and having repercussions the Reagan administration won't find to its liking.
A protest in Amsterdam against bringing American cruise missiles to Holland. The crowd bigger today than expected and more confident that America's missiles can be stopped, thanks in part to Mikhail Gorbachev.
I trust that he didn't lie in Paris about the figures.
Gorbachev's claim to have reduced the number of active SS-20 missiles in the Soviet arsenal is still headline news in Holland. The reason? The Dutch government's promise to deploy cruise missiles if the Soviets have more than 378 SS-20s in service at the end of this month. 1 week ago, it seemed certain they did, but Holland is certain no longer.
The country is rather confused and will be confused until the 1st of November when the cabinet has to present its final intention.
Gorbachev has bolstered the opposition in parliament who argue that Holland cannot deploy missiles while the Soviets are reducing stockpiles. And the Soviet leader's remarks are certain to help the peace movement's attempts to force a government retreat on cruise with a nationwide petition. 2 out of 8 million voters have signed already. The deadline is still 2 weeks away.
As yet unreleased opinion polls showed that things had been going well for the Dutch government, that gradually, over a period of months, the Dutch people were beginning to accept the notion of deploying cruise missiles here. And then came Mr. Gorbachev's remarks.
It's a very clever propaganda move, because all these weapon systems and their relationship is a very complicated issue, even for an expert.
Even though he never mentioned Holland by name, Mikhail Gorbachev in Paris spoke directly to the Dutch and to a promise on cruise they have yet to keep. Doug Tennell, CBS News, The Hague.
The Reagan administration made it official today. It announced that it no longer automatically will recognize rulings and jurisdiction of the World Court in The Hague as compulsory. A State Department spokesman accused Nicaragua of using the court, and I quote, as a political weapon in charging the U.S. earlier this year with illegally supporting the Contra rebels.
Come on, defense, get in there! Stop the same guy! Be the first one down there. The first man always wins.
Come take a trip in a 1986 luxury car built for the 1990s, Cadillac DeVille. Cadillac comfort and roominess, of course. But this Cadillac offers more. It thinks, monitors its own functions, keeps its driver apprised of changing conditions. The most sophisticated engineering and electronics of any DeVille ever. But this technological marvel retains classic luxury because...
best of all, it's a Cadillac.
Don't believe everything you hear about fiber laxatives. The truth is, only one brand is recommended by doctors more than any other. Only one offers you the sugar-free choice of NutraSweet. Only one offers all these flavors and forms. It's the one you've trusted for over 50 years. Metamucil. Original and sugar-free, with 4 times more soluble fiber than even Pure Bran, to help you maintain regularity. For the fiber you need every day, there's only one. Metamucil.
The British government and police tonight are facing a new and murderous phase of racial violence. The London police chief says the ferocity of last night's attack on police was, quote, beyond belief. Steve Croft has more on what perhaps was Britain's worst ever night of mob terror.
For the 4th time in a month, the skies were orange and the air filled with the smell of the inner city burning. This is not England, one policeman said. This is madness. Birmingham, Brixton, Toxteth, and last night Tottenham, a lower middle-class section of North London. It sparked when a black woman dropped dead of a heart attack during a police search of her house. And by the time it ended, hours later, a white policeman had been stabbed to death in the throat. Several others had been seriously injured by bricks and concrete blocks. And for the first time in history, British riot police had come under armed attack. The shots ushered in a new era of police tactics. For the first time, they loaded up with sometimes lethal plastic bullets, although they were not actually used.
One cannot expect policemen who are made of flesh and blood like everyone else to stand passively and receive a fusillade of stones, bricks, petrol bombs, and now bullets.
Police say an unfortunate series of overreactions and accidental shootings were excuses for riots, not causes. The cause, they say, is a criminal, antisocial, unemployable element that has changed England's inner cities. It's not just the British cities that have changed, the police have changed too. The image of the unarmed Bobby standing on a street corner may still hold outside Harrods and Westminster Abbey, but it no longer exists in places like Brixton and Tottenham.
If the police thing, just riot gear and all this thing going to solve it, you see, this is not going to end, not a one-off thing. This is going to go on and go on.
The scenes in Tottenham brought to mind an old British dance hall song from simpler days. If you want to know the time, just ask a policeman. The times have changed, and last night the tune was drowned out by the thumping of police shields and the sounds of helicopters overhead. Steve Croft, CBS News, London.
You are the people of God.
Professional dental technicians use instruments like this to remove denture stain. Nothing replaces professional cleaning, but you can remove stains to help keep that professional-looking clean with Efferdent. Even on a tough, caked-on stain of coffee, cherry, and tobacco, Efferdent's powerful blue action formula gets dentures clean even in between, as it kills germs that cause plaque. Efferdent is accepted by the American Dental Association. Professional strength Efferdent removes even stubborn stains between teeth.
It's painful to see a family friend go, one that has gone before its time. Pity you didn't do something while there still was time, like protect it with a Z-Bart Lifetime Protection Package. Z-Bart has lifetime limited warranties on paint protection, fabric protection, sound deadener, and rust protection. After all, what the car maker giveth, sun, salt, and spills, can surely taketh away. Be car smart. Get Z-Bart for the life of your car.
In New York City tonight, a replay of the controversy, division, and shouting matches that have accompanied appearances around the nation by Louis Farrakhan, leader of the Chicago-based Nation of Islam. Correspondent Bob Fall looks at why a man accused of selling a message of hate and anti-Semitism will be speaking to a sellout crowd of thousands.
No one in America today celebrates blackness the way Louis Farrakhan does.
You are the people of God.
And by calling Judaism a gutter religion and Hitler wickedly great, no one has so outraged whites, and especially American Jews.
They are not the chosen people of God.
Everywhere he has gone in the last year, huge crowds have come to hear him. Not just because Farrakhan is a charismatic speaker whose language is uncompromising, but also because at a time when millions of blacks are unemployed and disillusioned, Farrakhan's defiant call for economic self-reliance offers hope.
It kind of expresses their frustrations and their anger.
But down and out, even some prosperous blacks also come because they are curious about the man who got Libyan leader Gaddafi to put up $5 million for Farrakhan's Muslims to manufacture soap and toothpaste.
We will fight together.
And because Farrakhan extols old-fashioned virtues which many blacks esteem.
How can our children remain in poverty if we say they will not?
His Nation of Islam membership totals at best 10,000, but as the size of his audience has grown, so has the reluctance of black elected officials to criticize him. In fact, when asked by CBS News to discuss Farrakhan, none of the black mayors in major American cities would.
You don't require white candidates or politicians to explain why other persons, even friends of theirs or persons associated with them, say or do what they say and do.
Others say black politicians fear Farrakhan's wrath.
Many of them are physically afraid
of denouncing Mr. Farrakhan.
All of which leaves black politicians to decide which is more important: a coalition of blacks and whites, which many have tried to build, or the constituency Louis Farrakhan represents. Bob Fall, CBS News, New York.
Justices of the U.S. Supreme Court came back today from 3 months' vacation and got down to cases. They agreed to a sweeping review of affirmative action policies used for years nationwide. Policies President Reagan has agreed often amount to reverse discrimination against whites. Policies that supporters say are still needed to counteract years of job discrimination against women and minorities. Now the latest in our never-ending effort to keep tabs on the Japanese and on the world of domino knocking over. The new state-of-the-art world record belongs to a group of Tokyo College art students. Japanese television last night showed the fruit of their labor. Almost 711,000 dominoes, taking 35 minutes to fall over from first to last. It took the students more than a month to build their record-breaking domino chain.
I don't want some wimpy tasting cereal.
If you want bushels of taste, Fruitful Brand. I don't want some itty-bitty taste. Peaches, raisins, apples, dates. Fruitful Brand. Bushels of flavor slamming in the flakes. Fruitful Brand has bushels of taste.
High fiber Kellogg's Fruitful Brand. We call it Fruitful because it's packed with bushels of taste.
Bushels and bushels and bushels of taste in Kellogg's Fruitful Brand. Bushels of taste.
Girls, what's the giggling about?
Lisa thinks it's silly to put A1 steak sauce on your hamburger.
Silly? My dear ladies, what's hamburger? Chopped ham?
No.
It's chopped steak. And what's better on steak than A1? A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers. Try it.
Incredible.
You said it. Its herbs and spices make hamburgers juicy and really tasty, like steak burgers. What's the giggling now?
Lisa thinks you're cute.
A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers.
At least 55 people are reported killed in flooding throughout southern Puerto Rico. Heavy rains caused mudslides, washed out bridges and roads, and flooded a shantytown near Ponce, the island's second largest city. The rains are forecast to continue through tomorrow morning. Puerto Rico's governor has put the National Guard on alert. Rescuers in Mexico City have scaled down their search efforts for a young boy thought to have been trapped under tons of crushing rubble. Thought by some to still be alive 2.5 weeks after the September earthquakes. Martha Teichner tonight reports about this child who probably did not survive and about thousands of others who did.
Now that the search is for a body, not for a 9-year-old boy called Moncho, miraculously alive, tapping messages through the rubble, there is a theory that engineers at the site made up the whole story to force the government to pay attention to their needs. And true or not, family, friends, rescue workers wanted so much to believe it, the story took on a life of its own.
It came to symbolize all the contradictions of Mexico City after the earthquake, but most of all, the power of hope, even when hope is futile.
But a few spectacular miracles watched by the world seem to be enough to justify that hope. Oscar Flores saved after 7 days under tons of concrete. Just a week and a half later, he has checked out of the hospital. This child, pulled unhurt from a collapsed maternity ward, was 2 days old at the time of the earthquake. His parents are missing. The nurses named him Angel because they believe an angel is watching over him. Already, more than 7,000 families have applied to adopt this one baby. The government adoption agency is turning people away. It is the same for all the children. These are stories with happy endings. But most of the survivors of Mexico City's earthquake have no miracles to live on. They look for lost faces among faint photographs posted on hospital windows. If you have any information, please call. Dawn at the Plaza of the Three Cultures, where the last Aztec king surrendered, where the conquistadors built their first church, and now, almost 500 years later, homeless Mexicans live in tents, their modern high-rise apartments empty or reduced to a horrifying tangle of concrete and wire, bathed in dust. Here, Among the ruins is the real symbol of Mexico City after the earthquake. Here, life is the same no matter how much it changes. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Mexico City.
Graduation rehearsal. You wouldn't believe it.
I'm really going to miss you. Did you decide which job to take?
Yeah, I'm going with that subsidiary of Dow. I could actually be helping high-risk heart patients.
Yes, you can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
You're pretty special.
So are you.
Let you do great things.
Looking for a loan? Tried talking to a financial institution? Big, impersonal. Looks like you need a friend. At Beneficial, we're big.
Hi, I'm Fred.
But very personal. You'll talk to the boss when you talk to Beneficial, so there's no committee, no waiting. Everything could be wrapped up in 24 hours.
Congratulations.
Thanks, big guy.
Thank you.
Beneficial. Talk to the manager, and you're talking to the boss.
Announcing new instant Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee with new fresh brewed taste. New Sanka starts with fine coffee beans, gently roasted, and perked with our special fresh brewing process. You'll love the irresistible aroma and new fresh brewed taste. It's so smooth, so satisfying. New instant Sanka. Now the first name in decaffeinated coffee has a new fresh brewed taste.
The Harlem Globetrotters Mostly for Fun basketball team signed on 2 rookies today, one of them the team's first woman player. She's Lynette Woodard, the 5'11" guard who played at Kansas and was captain of last year's gold medal U.S. Olympic team. She holds the all-time Kansas career scoring record, men or women, and that includes a guy named Wilt Chamberlain. With almost monotonous regularity, news of our college sports teams is not being found on the sports pages. Never have reports of scandal and payoffs been so highly publicized and so roundly denounced. Yet these practices seem as common as ever, as Bernard Goldberg tells us in the first of his 2-part series, When the Cheering Stops.
Come on, defense, get in there! Stop that same guy! Be the first one down there. The first man always wins.
There's an old saying that sports doesn't build character so much as it reveals it.
Attack, buddy, attack!
And who is he yelling at?
Get in there!
At the ripe old age of 7 years old, they are learning an important lesson. That sport in America, even pee-wee sport, can be very serious business.
Let's go! Get the man with the ball!
Gonna win today?
Yeah!
Go, go!
But what happens when they grow up and learn another lesson? That too often winning really means winning at any cost. The headlines are telling the story nearly every day. Big-time college sport is racked by scandal and corruption, and it is out in the open as never before.
The whole business of sport at the top level is to win, because winning brings in the money. Now, a desperate coach will do desperate things. You got cheating rampant at the college level.
SMU versus TCU. It could have been called the Scandal Bowl. SMU is already on probation. Boosters were caught paying players. Now it comes out TCU alumni were doing it too. One trustee explaining all the schools in the Southwest Conference buy players. What does a star cost?
Maybe $10,000 to $25,000 in cash and a car, and then maybe as much as $1,000 a month in cash.
And at Tulane, Hot Rod Williams got $10,000 in a shoebox to play basketball.
I had a case where an athlete was allowed his sister and his girlfriend into a college because he was such a big-time athletic hero that he could afford to bring, his whole entourage to the school that he was going.
Players told us about offers they turned down from schools they decided not to attend.
We can get you a degree. How they plan on doing that, I don't know, but they even go as far as to say that.
If you come here, they will offer you such and such, car, clothes, women, stuff like that.
Why is there so much corruption? In a word,
money and too much emphasis on winning, which may be related back to money.
Money. Listen to the numbers. Boston College got $2 million for playing in the Cotton Bowl. The 4 schools that make the NCAA basketball championships get $750,000 apiece. Big sport in America means big television, which means big money. And that too often means winning, no matter what.
And when you get corruption in an educational institution, you're really putting a worm in a nice apple. You are perverting the institution, but even more importantly, you're perverting the youngster who comes to the institution, presumably to get an education.
No. Hot Rod Williams left Tulane, barely able to read.
Our coach always told us when we was in school that we here on a basketball scholarship, so that's our #1 priority. Then school works after that.
Kevin Ross. He spent 4 years playing basketball at Creighton University, then had to go back to elementary school to get a real education.
P=9.
Very good. Very good.
And at Memphis State, some students virtually majored in basketball. Since 1972, just 6 of 56 scholarship players have graduated.
The average life of an NBA player today is less than 3 years. So when you're 24, 25, if you have made it, where are you going to there? Life expectancy for a man, 75 today? What will you do for the next 50 years of your life?
In our next report, what happens when the cheering stops?
The average individual, he doesn't wind up running through airports like O.J. Simpson. He winds up sweeping up airports if he's lucky enough to get that job even.
Bernard Goldberg, CBS News, Miami.
Now recapping the still-in-progress hijack of an Italian cruise ship tonight in the Mediterranean off the coast of Alexandria, Egypt. Palestine Liberation Organization commandos now are reportedly holding all aboard the ship the Achille Lauro hostage. They reportedly are threatening to blow up the vessel unless Israel releases 50 jailed Palestinians. One report tonight from the White House says most of the passengers on the ship got off the vessel before the hijackers got on, and that most of the hostages, about 400 people, now are believed to be the ship's crew. That's the CBS Evening News for this Monday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Working together, making life better, taking the keys and we're on our way. It never stops, there's always something to do, morning to night, each and every day. One of these days we gotta take a vacation, but until then we got places to be. Skylark.
The new Buick Skylark, a little sedan and a lot of Buick.
Skylark, Skylark, Skylark. Wouldn't you really rather have a Buick?
The touch of oil of Olay. Sheer and light, it quickly penetrates to replenish your skin's youthful look. The touch that performs wonders for 50 million women throughout the world. Oil of Olay.
Sorry, but you're fired, Malox. You don't work hard enough. I'm switching to Tempo.
For better relief from acid and gas, switch to Soft Tempo. With 75% more acid-relieving medicine than the leading tablet. Switch to better relief. Switch to Soft Tempo.
Thanks a lot, Citibank. You had to make your Visa and MasterCards better than other banks. All of your cards offer city dining. Saves my boss and his wife 20% at restaurants all over town. So now he can take a bunch of the guys out to dinner. But he still can't take his mind off of work.
All right, boys, let's all step up to the plate. Dig in. And remember, it's all in the rest. In the rest.
Visa and MasterCard from Citibank.
Keep your eye on the meatball.
It's the bank that makes them better.
Video cassettes, a look at the newest way to shop at home. And John Lennon remembered in a special tribute tomorrow on the CBS Morning News.
This is CBS.